Welcome to Lagos Parliament. I am Abimbola Agbebi. Members of the Lagos State House of Assembly have promised to transmit a petition by a coalition of civil society groups to the federal government and the National Assembly for necessary action. The civil society groups who recently declared a national day of mourning to register their displeasure over rising tension across Nigeria called on the legislature to help reach out to the presidency. Top on the list of issues that generated concerns is insecurity.
While we were holding a public hearing, we were pulled from the session to address this civil rights organization who has declared one day national mourning. So they have they came to express their grievances and agitations on those societal ills bedeviling our country, ranging from kidnapping, Boko Haram, banditry, and all sorts, unemployment, and the rest of it. So they were very, very aggrieved and ventilated their views to us. And the Deputy Speaker tried as much as possible, to douse the tension, because it was a very pensive, they were all in a very pensive mood. So he addressed the crowd. They insisted that we should open the gate, which we obliged, and they came to the podium, the pavilion over there, and they addressed us. And so I think that was all about our engagement with them. Thank you, sir.
Came to register their reservations about the situation in the country, particularly as it has to do with killings, either through Boko Haram, herdsmen, armed robbers, kidnappers, and also, seeking the House as the mouthpiece of the people in Lagos State to further carry their observations to the federal government, Mr. President, and take it up on our own for public discussion by calling for town hall meeting. And as rightly observed by Honorable Okolawan, that repeatedly we have also discussed these matters. We have deliberated upon it, and we will continue to do our best. And representing the interests of Lagosians, we also join them to forward their petition to the necessary quarter with a letter to the Presidency and National Assembly, so that they can also understand why we have been calling, particularly for state police, to ensure protection of lives and property. So, and in the same vein, I want to commend them, at least for conducting their protest in such a peaceful manner, and also commend their consciousness, the need for the people to be protected by the government. We commend them, and we want to urge them to continue to pay attention to the situation in the state and the country at large.
Away from security matters, let's take a quick look at some of the bills considered on the floor of the House this week. The lawmakers deliberated on the Domestic Violence and Sexual Offenders Bill and the Lagos State House of Assembly is set to pass a bill that will prohibit or restrict persons from having custody of animals dangerous to the public. And where permitted with license, the law is expected to control and regulate the custody of such animals, among other issues. This was part of the recommendations of the House Committee on Agriculture, which was later amended by the lawmakers and adopted as a resolution of the House. Legislative proceedings on the bill started in 2020, and opinions of members of the public were sought on how to regulate pet ownership in the state. There were observations about unregulated ownership of animals that are dangerous to the public. The House Committee on Agriculture, in its report, came up with some recommendations which brought reactions from the lawmakers.
Report of the Committee on Agriculture on a bill for a law to regulate the ownership, licensing, care, and sale of pets and prohibit or restrict persons from having custody of animals dangerous to the public and where permitted to license, control, and regulate the custody of such animals and for other connected purposes.
There were observations on the need to categorize animals that are considered dangerous and the ones to be kept as pets.
Paragraph 5.0, page 2. The following observations were proposed for the consideration of the committee. 1. There is need to categorize pet animals because not all pets are dangerous or wild. 2. There is also the need to categorize animal practitioners because only pet veterinary was mentioned in the bill. 3. Domesticated animals such as livestock, poultry, and small remnant animals should be exempted from license.
The second schedule of the original bill, under the list of animals in custody of the owner or keeper requiring license, I saw some names there, like for example, number 28, grass cutter. And that's Aaron Oya. Do we require license for that? Some people even eat dog, cat. Some people eat cat. Like for example, alligator. So I'm just thinking that we should look at this list.
Some of these animals, in terms of value, is less than 20,000 naira. So the person may easily disown the animal. I'm of the humble opinion that instead of 250,000 naira, maybe the fine should be 50,000 naira for such offenses, in order not to create a situation whereby they can be abandoned and even disown the animal.
To another local government should not be attract a general fee. Mr. Speakers, under Joint Task Board, it has been specifically stated the accruable revenue to 3 tiers of government and animal is specifically mentioned under the local government. And for somebody to transfer or moving an animal from one local government to another is renewable. And it's not addressed in recommendation.
Licensing of wildlife animal farming is an in thing, especially in South Africa, where people keep crocodiles as not as pet, but as farming. It's been encouraged. So if we want to pass a law like this, we should be looking as if Lagos State should grow in the next 10 years to this level so that we can have farm. If you want to set up an alligator farm, you want to set up a crocodile farm that are wild animals, you should license with the duly registered Ministry of Agriculture.
Chairman of the committee explained that the 37 section bill also seeks to promote animal rights and the sales.
What brought about this bill was, if you could remember vividly, that was a foreigner. I'm not so sure of his country, but I think it's either from a Lebanese or an Indian that had a lion in his house that is rearing. So it was along the lines, the Lagos State government came, they euthanized the lion, and it was taken to the zoo. So we now discovered that it was not even only that particular person that had such animals in the state. So I think those are some of those things that brought the idea about how are we going to manage it curtail it. I'm not saying you should not rear whatever animals. We categorize them. If you look at the bill very well, we have the names of some of the animals that we believe these animals are white, but at the same time, you can still keep it. You can still rear them if you want to, but you must follow the procedures so that it won't affect others. The accommodation, you must be able, the veterinary doctor or the technologist that are in charge must come and inspect it and see that you follow the do's and don'ts of that animal before they give you that license. At least to protect human beings and also to protect the animals. If you want to walk them, leash it. If you want to rear them, cage them. Otherwise, whatever happened or whatever your dogs or your animals did to whosoever, you are going to pay for it.
The bill, when passed into law, will repeal the Dogs Law Cap V4 Laws of Lagos State 2015. The Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency Bill now waits third reading on the floor of the House. This comes after the recommendations in the report of the House Committee on Women Affairs, Poverty Alleviation and Job Creation was amended and later adopted as a resolution of the House. On the 10th of December 2020, the Lagos State House of Assembly held a public hearing on the proposed bill that is expected to ensure speedy dispensation of justice for survivors of sexual and domestic violence in the state. 45-year-old Tomilayo, a survivor of domestic violence, was at the event. She appeared eager to share her story.
This last time that makes me to pack out of the house is because of the beating every day, to the extent that I lost these eyes.
Marriage for some women like her is a life full of horrifying events, as she chronicled her experiences spanning 2 decades.
I did not offend him. That he is the one that has offended me, and he started begging me. I could have heard the begging, but this is the 4th time. And he's attempting of killing me with knife.
Though efforts to get her husband to speak wasn't successful, as at the time of filing this report, stories like this, no doubt, is one of the many cases that inspired the need for a bill that seeks justice for survivors of sexual and domestic violence in Lagos. At the public hearing, opinions of members of the society on the bill were sought. Section 17 of the proposed bill is about establishment of the Sex Offenders Register, where names of sex offenders are written and publicized as one of the ways to curb the growing trend in the state.
It's because of the COVID-19 pandemic. During that pandemic, there was this lockdown. During the lockdown, a lot of people had financial problems, and because of those financial problems, they became frustrated, and that is one of the reasons why there was a spike during the lockdown.
The register will be open to the public upon application and satisfy that the reason for it, for the information about the register, is for a good purpose. Members of the public can access it.
This bill seeks to also establish an agency that would, directly take care of all of these sexual offenses, that would also bring to book to serve justice to the victims.
All in favor say aye. Those against, the ayes have it.
Under the provisions of custodial sexual assault.
About 6 months later, the lawmakers took another look at the bill as the committee presented its report to the House. The bill went through thorough tinkering. The recommendations of the committee were amended and later adopted as a resolution of the House.
The House, at its plenary session on Monday, 8 February 2021, considered and debated on the report of the committee, after which a second allotted day was given for the committee to present the amendments made. Consequently, the committee has made the following amendments. Number 1, to delete the following newly created provisions. A, rape. B, attempted rape. C, D, marital rape. E, forceful ejection from home. F, attempted forceful ejection. G, administering controlled substance with intent. And H, offenses and penalties. Number 2, to delete Section 5, subsection 2A of the bill and replace to read, a chairman who shall be a person of impeccable character with at least 10 years experience in sexual and gender-based offenses management. Number 3, create a new Section 7 in the bill with a side note tenure of office. Read, the chairman and members of the board shall be appointed on a part-time basis for a term of 5 years and may be reappointed for another term of 5 years only.
Now let's have the chairman of the House Committee on Women Affairs, Poverty Alleviation and Job Creation in this interview as she sheds more light on the intent of the bill.
Yes, kudos to Lagos State. They're really coming on strongly against the incessant and abuses on child molestation, rape, all gender-based violence. First and foremost, want to give kudos to the NAPTIP. They've done beautifully well. We're not there yet, however be the case, but they have done so well, so far so good. We still have a long way to go. Lagos is really doing well. The Ministry of Justice and myself have been a tigress concerning this matter as the Chairman House Committee on Women Affairs, Poverty Alleviation, and of course job creation. We have passed a lot of bills concerning gender-based violence. We have done a lot of public hearing on rape. We also did something recently on awareness, where most of the members after plenary had their placards to say no, to rape, and of course no to gender-based violence. Only last week, Lagos State Ministry of Justice launched gender-based violence virtual referral and response service, and they have their telephone numbers that women who have been abused or who are maltreated by their husbands can actually call to get respite. And I think they're doing so well. Only today as well, on the floor of the House, my bill concerning gender-based violence and the establishment of sex offenders register scaled its second reading today. Most of the obligations that we captured in this bill have already been taken care of in the administration of criminal justice system of Lagos State. And what we try to do is to give it a further backup to further strengthen our laws. When you strengthen your law, it gives it more ability to actually be enforced. It makes enforcement very easy. First and foremost, we have looked at so many gender-based violence cases, or, well, let's say some that has led to either of the spouse dying. It was later, discovered that they had always been a provoker. Someone had always been the one provoking the other person. And then on the other side, we have to look at women who are suffering in silence. This is the time for them to come out. And we also found out that the economic crunch is really hitting on a lot of families now. So a lot of people, like their husbands, or find it as an avenue to actually vent their anger or to actually transfer aggression on their wives. It's not supposed to be like that. I think when there's a situation in the family, I think both couples should come together to find a lasting way to resolve it. It's not about making one person the punching bag or making somebody suffer psychological effect of what the family problem is about. It shouldn't be so. So this is what this bill seeks to look at. We have tried to also introduce new laws as well, especially like I introduced a law against sex for grades or sex for admission into higher institution. I captured that in this particular bill, and also we try to look at the penalties involved. Furthermore, we also try to look at people who try to give falsified information or false witnesses, misleading evidence during the investigation against rape cases or abuse cases, or even during the trial of pedophilia and what have you. So we have also tried to capture that in this particular bill. Lagos State House of Assembly is not taking with kids' gloves when it comes to legislation. And I want to thank the Right Honourable Speaker, Mudashiru Ajayi Obasa, who is very much experienced. And I also want to say without mincing words, that he has a very strong a very good sense of leadership. And I also want to commend his wealth of experience in terms of this business legislature. So he's really doing well, he's leading us well, and we learn a lot from him.
We move now to education, where more than 5,000 pupils of some public primary schools in Amuwo-Dofin local government area of Lagos State were provided with free learning materials by their representative in the parliament. This gesture, the lawmaker says, is geared towards reducing the number of out-of-school children in the state by ensuring that every child have access to quality education.
To come and show the recognition that the Honorable has towards the education or towards these pupils, so that it will enable them to know the importance of education. This kind gesture will really go a long way to really energizing, let me put it, energizing the pupils to be serious with their studies. It's a kind gesture and a good gesture towards the pupils and the community at large.
A lot of children being not encouraged by this, current circumstance. Writing material is very crucial in going to school. A lot of parents these days, as you have rightly mentioned, have been affected in terms of their financial income by the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. So, of course, adversely, it has affected how they're able to provide for their children, for their educational needs. And I thought, how best should I celebrate this year's Children's Day, if not to look that way, to look at the children and how to actually try to meet up with that obligation. So I wish I had the chance to do more, but of course, the first thing is to be able to provide writing materials. A lot of children wake up every morning and are discouraged. They don't have books to write. I've seen a situation where a child uses just one exercise book for more than 5 subjects with, demarcated pages for each subject. Such a child would, of course, naturally not be happy going to school, and it's just a way of saying somebody's somewhere and somebody cares. And I thought, you saw the excitement on the faces of those children yesterday. That was really genuine. They were genuinely happy. And I hope that I can continue this exercise, periodically, so that we can get as much children out of the streets as possible and put them in school and keep them there.
At Lagos Parliament this week, we thank you for watching. Do send us a feedback to lagosparliament@tvcnews.tv. I am Abimbola Agbebi. Goodbye.